Hi wonderful people, and welcome back to my channel, Bookkraves with Giselle. What's up, what's the scene? How are you going? I hope you're doing well. I thought that I would share with you my favorite romance books of 2021. These are books that I read and I reviewed and I absolutely loved them. They were absolutely 5 stars. Like, I gave all of these books 5 stars because I enjoyed the story so much. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure and give it a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, what are you waiting on? Subscribe. Let's get into these books till it hurts. This one is going to break your heart. This one could possibly make you cry. It didn't make me cry. It could make you cry. It is very heartwarming. And the thing about it is that they have this turbulent past and this history between them that leaves them hurt, leaves them sad, leaves them wanting vindication, leaves them wanting revenge. This story, oh my gosh, till it hurts. We have friends to lovers to enemies back to lovers in this one book. Till It Hurts, it is a small town romance. It's a brother best friends romance, as well as it is an enemies to lovers. Oh, so sinful. So in this story, we get Jace. Jace is this football player. He was basically abandoned by his parents and left with his grandmother, and then he had his neighbors, one being Tori and her brother. He became best friends with Tori's brother, and sometime in high school, he and Tori, they took their relationship to the next level. However, something happens. Then there was this huge misunderstanding that resulted in them breaking up and not speaking for numerous years. And then when Jay's grandmother dies, she leaves the house for all 3 of them. And so Tori, having gone off on her own, experiencing a very traumatic event that leaves her fearing for her life, injured, without money. She had nowhere else to go but to that house in that small town. And when Jace gets a word of this, he goes there knowing that he doesn't have to stay there, but he just wants to torment Tori because of what he thought she did. And she's upset because of what she thought Jace did. This story is absolutely heart-rendering and sweet. I read Ruthless Saints, Cruel Saints, Tears of Betrayal, Tears of Salvation, and I can't remember what else. This one is my absolute favorite of all the books that was released in the Saint Monarchs Academy series. This is not a young adult romance, by the way. Just saying that because, it is a full adult 18 plus years book. So Tears of Betrayal, we meet Adriana and Dimitri. Now Dimitri, he is the custodian for the head of the Russian Bratva. And then Ariana, she's just a simple girl living a simple life, and she does TikTok and does makeup and all of that, and boom, Dimitri comes into her life and just mixes everything all up because there's a hit on her head placed by someone in the international crime world. And she's like, what? She's like, I am this ordinary person. I don't have no ties to any crime or criminal organization. But she does. Her father is the head of the Bratva in Russia, and she is going to inherit that, but she doesn't want anything to do with it. Besides that, we have Dimitri. He is sent to protect Ariana, and he kidnaps her. And she thinks that she's going to die. She wants to escape. It was definitely a battle of wills between her and Dimitri, and that just made the story so good. Like, you saw the chemistry and the intensity between Dimitri and Ariana just grew and grew until it just became so explosive, so sizzling. Absolutely loved this one too. Spice Cake by Keta Kendric. It was absolutely delicious and oh so sinful. Absolutely loved it. Loved it. In this book, we meet Ronetta and Brooke. Both of them have issues regarding racism and prejudice, and they are very insensitive of what they say regarding the opposite race. And so their friends refer them to this clinic where they can get help with racial sensitivity. And this is why I like this story, because it is very unique. It touches on this issue very skillfully. The story is well crafted, and it was so nice to read the story. It was so nice to see that relationship build, especially with Renetta. That girl, she is very insensitive to what she says regarding white people, and the opposite can be said about Rook. Love this book. It was absolutely delicious. Lessons in Sin, oh my gosh. This was one of my top dark romances that I read in 2021. This story, it is sinful, it is steamy, it is all that and so much more. It is also an age gap romance. It is a forbidden romance. It's a romance between a teacher and a student. Like, this book is so taboo on so many levels, and it is one of the best books that I read. I absolutely loved this book. So we meet Father Magnus and Tinsley. Tinsley is like the rebellious last daughter, the last child in her family, and her mother decides to take her to this academy. And who's in charge of the academy? Father Magnus. Father Magnus was this big socialite billionaire. However, something went wrong and he decided he's just going to open up a school or take over a school. He also has like some darkness to him and things that he's dealing with. And Tinsley, she just comes and tempts Father Magnus, making this man break his vow. She pushes him to the edge of his sanity. Tinsley, we have really dark elements with BDSM and all of that in this book. Absolutely love this book. Loved it. This next book that I'm going to talk about, it is a young adult, and I have been really loving young adult romances. Honestly, like, I never used to read young adults. I was full on adult contemporary romance, and for some reason I read one and I read another, and I can't even count how many young adult romances I have read this year. But this one right here, it is my favorite. And it is Brutal Blue Blood by Becker Gray, and it is book 3 in the Hell's Fire Club series. In this book, we meet Owen and Tanith, and they both attend the same school. Owen, he is from a very wealthy family, so everything is just like really smooth sailing for him. Tanith, she has to work for everything. She has to work for all the scholarships, everything. Nothing is handed to her. So in the story, you have where Owen and Tanith, they meet on this boat that one of her best friends is throwing some party they are throwing, and Owen, he stumbles upon her and he's like, "How haven't I seen you?" And she's like, "What? We have been attending the same school. How could you not know this? How could you not know that?" This young adult, new adult romance, you have like the nerd and then you have the Ice King. And let me just see, these opposites definitely did attract. Their chemistry, you could feel it coming from the pages. If you read on a Kindle, you could feel it coming off the Kindle. You read a book, you could feel it coming off of the book. Tanith made the Ice King this person that always has control and poise and all of these things. She released the beast. She made him become uncontrollable, untamed, vulnerable version of himself. I'm all for it. Another book that I loved this year, and I think I was reading a lot of dark romances, and then I read this one and it touched my heart so much. I was like, oh, I'm not one that would read a lot of light stories, but this one, it just spoke to me, and it is Enthralled by J Akridge. I read several of her books, and this was my absolute favorite of them all. In Enthrall, we meet Cole and Maya, and this is a rockstar romance, yo. Can you imagine me reading a rockstar romance and loving it? But I absolutely did. So Cole, he's the band leader. He is also one that was dealing with a lot of hurt and pain. And then you have Maya. Maya is in this relationship with her boyfriend Ben for several years, and he's refusing to take their relationship to the other level. He doesn't want to marry her, and she's just putting up with his nonsense. And eventually she got out of it. During this time, she meets Cole and they start to become friends, and their boundaries doesn't cross until she's out of her relationship with Ben. Turns out that Ben started to use drugs and all of that, but I don't want to say too much from the story. But this book, it was really nice, and I love the twist and ending with their personal assistants and all of that. Oh my gosh, I would have that girl. But it's just a story. The angst and the suspense and the build-up in Enthrall is really great. You become drawn in to the secondary characters and you want to read their book. Like, I was actually anticipating the release of their book because you just get a taste of it and you wanted more. This author, she has a way of, when she writes her story, she puts this something special into it and you're like, oh, it is so touching and heartwarming, and I love her stories because of that extra something that she puts in it. You have to read it to know that extra something. Once you read it, you will understand and you would fall in love with the books that she writes. Back to us. This story, it is so good. It is a small town romance and it is also a second chance romance. In this book, we meet Blake and Dakota, and they were high school sweethearts, and everyone knew that they were going to get married and just end up together. And then this huge misunderstanding happens, and Dakota, she goes to college and she doesn't return to her hometown for 10 years. She just up and left Blake, never to return. He doesn't know anything about her. He doesn't know if she's dead or alive or whatnot. So she returns to the small town of Cameron Falls, and there she meets Blake. And Blake gives her a piece of his mind. The angst in this story, it has your heart racing. It has your blood boiling. It is so enticing. And the chemistry and the tension between Dakota and Blake. You feel the anger. You feel the hurt. You feel the sadness. You feel all of what Blake experienced for that 10 years, that Dakota just decides, you know what, she wanted nothing to do with him. Like, you feel that, and that is why this story was so good. The writing, you feel it. And when an author can write a book and make you feel that pain and feel that hurt and feel that sadness and regrets, like if it's your own, you know that story is good. Forever After All by Catherina Maura. Absolutely love this book. This book takes you on a journey. It takes you on a ride. You feel the anguish. You feel the hurt. You feel the betrayal in this story. This story is a marriage of convenience between Elena and Alexander. So Elena, mom, she got in an accident and she was left with her trust fund, and that was it. And she used this money to keep her mother on life support because she believed in her heart that one day her mom will wake up. Turns out that she ran out of money. She could not cover her mom's medical bills, and so she decides to go to this gentleman club to work to earn money. And there she meets her childhood friend, Alexander, and his brother. So when Alexander sees her there, he's like, what are you doing here? Do you know what you're doing? And so he gives her an option where if she marries him, then he would fund the healthcare for her mother. This marriage of convenience, it is so steamy. Oh gosh, between Alexander and Elena, the battle of wills, like she made Alexander crumble and fall to his knees. She had this man begging. Absolutely loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Alexander and Elena, their story was phenomenal. This is honestly an amazing story, and I loved every minute of this book. From beginning to end, the twists and the turns, I devoured, I consumed this story. If you enjoyed this video, like it, and if you have not subscribed to my channel, subscribe, yo. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you would know when I post a video, and look out until I upload another one.